Marketing has been with us since the AB86 days, and they've been behind the scenes working with the newsletter, the website, all those kinds of things. So now we're kind of going into a different area of expertise with them and looking at to tell the story about adult education and the AEBG effort. And so today's webinar is going to be covering that type of reaching out to your stakeholders, advocating for adult education, telling them what is going on at the local level, because we always have to fight every year to get funding, get permanent funding, get additional funding. So we always need to continue to be on top of our game. So today's webinar is going to be related to the Educate and Elevate campaign, which is across the United States. And it's called an Investment in California's Future. So we're kind of tailoring the Educate and Elevate campaign to California related to AEBG efforts. And so let's start the webinar. We're 2 minutes after. So we have some familiar faces, names on the committee for AEBG advocacy. As you know, we'll start from the bottom. We have Bob Harper, who's been with Adult Ed for many years. From CCAE, Dawn Kepke. She is a legislative advocate for the K-12 side for CCAE. And then we have Ashley Walker, who works with North Orange Community College and I think Mount San Antonio Community College for legislative advocacy. And then we also have Christine Bosworth, who is the CEO and co-founder of Business U. And then we have some field practitioners, Madeline Arbeo, who is the Mount San Antonio Consortia co-chair, and Steve Carriel, who is the Coast Consortia co-chair. And then we also have Lizette Navarrete, who works for the League of Community Colleges. She also works with the legislature on community college issues. So that's our team. I want to bring in Selena in, and she's with Full Capacity Marketing. She's the president of Full Capacity Marketing. Selena, are you there?
I'm here, Neil. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
So you want to introduce your team?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thanks, Neil. It's such a pleasure to be part of the AEBG family, if you will, and of course, all the other great technical assistance providers on the project. And we're super excited about this particular campaign and tailoring it for California and all the great work that the consortia are doing. You'll see here on the screen that you have a ton of talent at your disposal. Also, and they're all in the room with us, Marianne Conlon, our Senior Brand Director, Michelle Jimenez, a Senior Marcom Director, Ivan Frenner, our Creative Director, Christy Fairfax, our Marcom Specialist, Graham Wynn Lee is our Digital Manager, Kathy Doucette, our Senior Web Developer. And we've also brought on board our consulting partner, who was introduced in the previous slide, Dr. Christine Bosworth, who's the CEO and co-founder of Business U. And Business U is a national institutionally accredited organization that specializes in business engagement. And Dr. Bosworth has an extensive background in adult ed. So we're really happy to have this whole team really be of service to you. And it's going to take all of this talent to really pull in the different areas of specialty that we want to do with this particular campaign. Full Capacity Marketing, just so you know, has been around for about 14 years. And as Neil said, we've been with them for quite some time since the inception of your work. We also serve as the Communications TAP, Technical Assistance Provider for the Strong Workforce Program and Doing What Matters. Most importantly, we are a national company. So right now I'm in San Diego. Some of our team is in Washington, D.C. And we have a national perspective on the work that's going on in adult education and workforce development, as well as work with adult ed schools, K through 12, and community colleges all throughout California. So we have a big team, but we also have big passion for your work and also much appreciation for all that you do. We've seen it kind of grow from its different stages from planning, and now you're in a really kind of exciting time where you're executing those strategic plans and having to go out and do some external outreach, and that's what this webinar is really all about. Pardon me. So today we want to do a couple of things, and Neil, feel free to chime in anywhere where you see you want to add comments as we roll through this. Here's our lineup for the webinar today. We're going to talk about the background of the national campaign. Full Capacity Marketing has been hired by two powerhouse associations that represent adult education. And so we're going to talk about how we're going to take that campaign and adapt it for our AEBG statewide efforts. And that's going to be important because whatever we do here in the state of California in terms of storytelling will be highlighted in the national campaign. And you guys do such great work. We want to really show the world what you're doing. And so these formats that we're going to share with you today are going to be very important to do that. The other thing, we're going to set the framework today on the future of storytelling. Storytelling has come a long way, and so has marketing and communications. So we've set up some great campaign elements, and we'll share those with you today and how we're going to approach the project, as well as get your input on your wish list and what you would like to see. Then we'll finish off last with how you will participate, and we'll talk about participation benefits. And I really want to take a moment to underscore the importance of this because you'll see as we go through all the tools, you're going to get benefit individually within your organization, whether you're an adult school, K through 12, community college, in terms of the tools you need to talk about the relevancy of adult education. And then you're also going to benefit from the regional level with your consortia. And then we'll finish off with next steps. So full agenda today. I will tell you that the whole team is monitoring the chat pod. So they may be asking you questions as we go through this and getting your input because we want as much input from all of you as possible. And, of course, if you have questions, just put them in that chat pod, and we'll pause periodically as we go through this to get your input. And we have a few polls as well. Okay, let's start with the national campaign. What is Educate and Elevate? The Coalition on Adult Basic Education and the National Council of State Directors of Adult Education have combined forces and are collaborating. They're very forward-thinking associations, and their whole idea is to develop a national storytelling campaign on the many facets of adult education. You know, we've moved beyond more than it being just about literacy, although that's certainly a viable part of adult education. So they have developed a website, educateandelevate.org, collaboratively with Full Capacity Marketing, on why adult education is a smart investment. And the reason they're taking this on at the national level is because of the climate. And, you know, just yesterday I got a note in my inbox that the new fiscal year appropriations bill is out, and proposed budget cuts across 3 agencies. Department of Labor would be cut by $1 billion, Department of Education would be cut by about $2.4 billion, and the overall budget in Health and Human Services about $542 million. So we have to acknowledge, and we're fortunate here in California, you know, where we have AEBG and other funding sources that understand the value of education. However, we can't take that for granted, and especially in this climate where everybody is looking to cut. And so being proactive about why adult education is relevant is very much a critical part of what all of you need to be doing at the consortia level, at the individual level, and of course collectively statewide. And that's what this campaign is about. We really need to elevate our storytelling game. So building value at the state level there, how are we going to take that national campaign and sort of tailor it? We have 3 overall goals in our California campaign, and it somewhat mirrors the national campaign very well. One is to create processes for a concerted collective effort to reach key stakeholders in our communities. There are a lot of people that are key influencers, and so we need to be able to, reach out to them with key message points to let them know all the great work we are doing. The second is to inform and educate stakeholders about the relevancy, and we're doing this with 4 key strategies. One is data. Second is success stories, and you'll see today that both employer success stories and adult learner success stories are equally important, especially in this environment where you've got a very business-friendly administration, at least at the federal level. And then innovations, which is very similar to your practices with promises and key message points. And then thirdly is just to make specific asks to support adult education. So those are our 3 goals and in terms of how we're going to modify the campaign for our efforts. Now you see a lot of this sort of taking place right now on COABE's website. We've given you an active link there that you can go and check it out, and they're asking folks to send in their letters, their emails, and say, hey, really support adult education. You're seeing this effort take place at the statewide level. The other link is an op-ed that Chancellor Eloy Oakley co-authored with the CEO of the California Chamber of Commerce, getting in that business angle again, talking about closing the skills gaps and also applauding the National Governors Association for sending a letter out to the federal elected officials saying, hey, we really want to prioritize funding for educational causes. So you're seeing this trend because we're in an environment now where funding cuts are running rampant, and we just can't take anything for granted. We have to be much more proactive about showcasing our relevancy and making a clear business case for what we do. Now what I'm going to do next is roll through some of the campaign components that we have on tap for you, and I'll actually show them and do some demonstrations. I'm going to run through this list, and then we're going to take a poll or 2 to get input from you as to what is on your wish list. Michelle Jimenez from our team has been contacting you, and we've got about 50% of those interviews completed on what you're currently doing with outreach and advocacy, but we'll get your input today as well. So the first thing we're doing is modeling the national website, and we're doing Educate and Elevate California website, which I'll show you today, which is currently on a test server. The next thing we'll do is highlight success in innovations, and you'll see many of you are probably familiar with the Practice with Promise website, where we've asked you to highlight your innovations, what you're doing from a regional perspective. Are you braiding funding streams? How are you solving issues in adult education in your region? We've actually expanded that now, so you'll see how you can upload now success stories, not just your innovations. The third bullet here I think is super important, and we've had a lot of conversations with the advocacy committee, and you can see we've taken a very strategic angle on developing who needs to be sitting on that committee, because we want all voices heard in terms of K through 12, adult schools, and community colleges. And it's building a narrative on our website for AEBG about our dual delivery system. It's not just one side of the house or the other. It's the combination of all these partners coming together in the region to solve real issues for adults. That's the story that we want to tell. And so we have folks that have big brains and big talent that represent this dual system that are going to make sure that we tell that story. The other thing is helping stakeholders understand the many facets of adult education. So especially here in California on AEBG, where we have apprenticeship and CTE and other areas, it's super important that we are able to basically understand all those facets of adult education. It's just not one thing. Working with partner organizations to coordinate our advocacy efforts. So we'll do that through the advocacy committee. And then using digital strategies, which is really the future of storytelling. So how do you use things like e-magazines and social media and video to make your story come to life? And we're going to do that in this campaign, as well as develop toolkits and templates to support our efforts. We've got right now, and Marianne, maybe you can put in the chat pod so folks have that link to the National Campaign Toolkit, and you'll see things in there like working with the media and templates. We're going to take all that great information and tailor it for California's efforts in AEBG. but you can get a sense of that. And then, of course, building capacity in the field to tell our story. Michelle's been contacting quite a few of you because while we have good stories, you'll see today there's an art to telling a story. So we want to be really great at storytelling. So that's kind of an overview. Before I get into the demos of each of that, let's get into the polls. And actually, Veronica, if you can go ahead and pull up both polls simultaneously, that will be great. And let's get your input now on two things. First poll is, what communications tools do you think your individual organization and or your regional consortia could benefit from? And you can check all that apply, okay, if there's more than one. And then the second part to that is to help us create webinars pertaining to communication topics, which of these below interest you? And of course, you can certainly add others in the chat pod if you don't see something there and say, this is what we're really needing both individually and at the regional level. Now, while the poll is going on, I just want to share with you some of the results of Michelle's work, and she's been contacting you. She's given you, I'd say about 50% of the consortia have been responding to our interview request, and we'll be requesting the other 50% to do the same. And the purpose of the inventory is to really understand your current advocacy and outreach efforts. What we have found of half of you that have reported in is that about 54% do not use social media, and about 40% are using Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, and about 6% are not sure if they're doing anything at all right now. Social media will be a big part of this campaign, and part of the benefits, if you have a social media account or you want to start one, we'll probably be doing a webinar on that, just looking at the preliminary results of the polls, is how you connect in to our statewide Twitter campaign, which is really going to increase our following with these key stakeholders. It looks like from Michelle's polls, too, about 86% of you do not have an ongoing coordinated outreach efforts, although you do some things around legislative day. And 14% say you do conduct outreach on a regular basis and have some good relationships with your stakeholders. What was really great is about 60% of you are very much wanting to participate in proactive efforts. And we hope that number will go up, of course, after this webinar. Okay, so this gives us a great idea. It looks like, wow, everybody wants media toolkits. Is really ranking high. Roadmap for how to engage employers, that's fantastic. This is why we've brought Business U on board, because they do have roadmaps and tools and everything to engage employers in work-based learning activities as well as placement. So we'll look at that. And then marketing templates, absolutely. And this is where key message points will be very important in working with the advocacy committee to make sure that we have those really on-point message points. And then building an outreach plan. Okay. Yes. Go ahead, Neil.
Sorry, I just wanted to interject on the social media. Some of the teachers and faculty might already have to use social media for tracking down self-reported, like I got a job or I got a better job. So when on the data side, when we're working with consortia and tracking students, sometimes we don't have a Social Security number or other means of finding out the follow-up. And a lot of times it'll be up to the teacher or faculty member to use social media. So I think social media is being used, but probably not for marketing and advocacy. It's being used to keep in touch with the student.
Well, and that's a great point, Neil, and what we can still leverage that, though, because part of this is going to be a storytelling campaign, and as we stay in touch with students and all of that, those mediums will become very powerful on the storytelling side of the house. So I think maybe having a webinar on that and looking at all the faces of social media and how we can leverage our collective efforts will definitely be worthwhile.
Great.
Thanks for that, Neil. Thank you so much. And then we've got another couple things. It would be great to have training on how to make effective videos. Oh, yeah, and do so quickly and easily. Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up, Peggy, because as we get into the framework, videos are a big part of storytelling, and there's an art to it. Okay, Veronica, we can go back into the PowerPoint now. Thank you for those polls, and thank you for your input. We will definitely take it all under our wing here and come up with some really great things. as we build out these toolkits, both your individual organization and your regional consortia are going to receive lots of benefits from that, because we get the right toolkits in your hand, you're going to be able to increase your community awareness of the depth and breadth of your programs. And just having the statewide push will also help raise the engagement with your key stakeholders and build momentum for our funding. It's going to highlight your unique brand as well as your regional consortia innovations, because remember, everything we do at the state level is going to show up on the national campaign website. So this is what makes us very excited about this campaign. You're going to kind of get two for your money, if you will, both on the state level and the national. And then, of course, we've got to get good at storytelling, right? And sometimes we get into this. I know as adult educators, we don't sign up and say, hey, I didn't come here to be a storyteller or marketing or outreach or any of that. But in this environment where everybody is competing for funding, you understand the importance of it. I don't even think we have to go there. I know that you know that. So how do we do it efficiently? The other thing is COABE at their 2018 conference is going to give out awards for the states that really do well in Educate and Elevate and how they've modified it. And I know California will be in the running for that. So lots of great value for participation, and we'll get into how your role as well towards the end of the webinar. So right now, let's start talking about collective storytelling components. There are three parts to what we're going to do. One is qualitative success stories. That is both employers and students. The second is your adult education innovations, very similar to what you've been doing with Practices with Promise. And we're going to make those a little stronger, too. We're going to get into a webinar on storytelling and innovations and what creates a good story. And then quantitative data results, obviously working with CASAS and the team. And all of this, what we're going to do is build a regional profile for each of you that is going to be retooled in a lot of different ways in an e-magazine, on our campaign website. So we need you to be and want you to be collaboratively working with us on developing that regional profile. Mary Ann Conlon, who's our senior brand manager or director, is going to be working with you on building those regional profiles so that it has the right story that you want to tell. And we're going to start early so that when we get into a big push in the fall, all those stories are developed. Now, Peggy in the chat pod had a fantastic comment about what about videos. This is a video I'd like for each of you to go and look at. When you get the PowerPoint, click on this video. It's about 4 to 5 minutes. And this sets the whole framework for our entire campaign strategy, which is around storytelling and specifically collective storytelling, because more and more stories equals more and more power. And just real quickly, the video is from Paul Zach. He's a scientist, and I will warn you up front that it's a very sad video. It's a story about a little boy named Ben who's 2.5 years old and has brain cancer, and the struggle that his father faces wanting to be joyful around Ben, but at the same time knowing he has just a limited amount of time to live. So Paul Zach, who's the scientist, took this, before I talk about that, I did show this video, by the way, at the CASAS conference during one of our marketing sessions on student retention and attraction. And it was very profound in the audience what happened, and I think you will find it profound as well, and they had a lot of takeaways out of it. One of the things that happens is that Paul Zach, the scientist, takes that story about Ben and his father into a laboratory. And he got funding for this where he actually took blood samples and did brain scans and everything as people watched this story. And what they found is that two things happen scientifically, that the brain produces two chemicals. One is cortisol, which has to do with paying attention to something, and oxytocin, which has to trigger care and empathy. And then he took it further, and he gave individuals in the lab an opportunity to share money with complete strangers. And what happened is when those two chemicals were present, they were more likely to donate money or give money to a complete stranger. And then even they were able to predict who might give money based on the amount of these two chemicals in their brain to nonprofits. Now, while we're not a nonprofit in our mission, what we take away from that is storytelling is incredibly powerful, and there is an art to storytelling, and that's what we're going to be helping you with, is really understanding the difference between what's a good story and what story can evoke emotion so that you can have support in your efforts. So I am going to, Marianne, I'm going to stop there and see if there's any questions while I get over into a couple of screens, and I'll demo some of the things that we have in play. So Marianne, can you just share with me, maybe verbally, if any comments that have come in?
We don't have any specific questions right now in the chat pod, but we hope that some will add some questions if you have them.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you, Marianne. So what you see on the screen here is the Educate and Elevate, and this is the look and feel of the national site. And COABE and the folks there have, they want every state to do a campaign like this, so this is why the campaign looks similar to it, or identical actually. And you'll see in the upper right-hand column, we've got Powered by AEBG. So in the main murals, what you'll see are just key message points with great visuals like we thrive, we learn, we work. And of course, the logo has been adopted to Educate and Elevate California adult education and investment in California's future. What are the sections in the website? So this is all on a test server, by the way. It's not live. And these sections over here are going to be developed with the committee, the advocacy committee, because we want to get the right message about who we are and our mission. So we'll be working with that. Meet AEBG Consortia. That's very different than what's on our website now. Your website now is for you guys, right? You go on there and you look at the meetings that are taking place and the planning and all of that. So that's more of your website. This website is a campaign for external audiences, stakeholders that want to learn more about adult education and the great work that we're doing. So under Meet AEBG Consortia, this is where we're going to develop profiles for each of you and the great work that you are doing. There's an e-magazine, and there actually are two e-magazines in this campaign. I'll show you both of them. One is, right now we're developing it. It's still going through a final review process, which is the 2017 legislative report. And then we'll do a second one in the fall and the launch of this campaign where we have those regional profiles. And in an e-magazine, you can embed videos and all kinds of things to really make your story come to life. So we'll be working with you on building that out. Watch video. Marianne, if you could put in the chat box the URL for the video on YouTube for the national campaign. We did an animated graphics video for that has key message points that talks about why investing in adult education is smart. And it talks about it from different angles, not only for benefiting the adult learner, but for the economy. Again, we have to remember what environment we're in at the federal level, and it is very business friendly. So we have to kind of look at this story from two sides. So we'll work with the advocacy committee on creating an animated video for us as well that we can share out. And then, of course, this is new, AEGB success stories, which I'll go into in a moment on that one. Regional innovations are your practice with promise. And then, of course, contact and follow as our Twitter campaign. So as we come down here, these are just some of the other touch points that you see within the website. This is an infographic that we'll have specifically to California. These will be rotating quotes that you'll be providing about your great programs. And then here we'll probably have our video. You'll see our mission at the bottom, and then, of course, the national campaign sponsors, which are COABE and the National Council of State Directors of Adult Education. So that's kind of the website here. And again, it's in its early phases. No content yet. Nothing is live. I wanted to share with you a couple of other elements, though, that are in play. And this is let me see if I can get my screen size a little larger for you so you can see this. So this is your Practice with Promise website where you upload innovations and things like that. And you'll see we've added two sections here. This is also not live yet, but I wanted to kind of give you a preview as we're working on this. And then you can see there's two categories, one for students. I'm just going to go into a test one here. So here is where you can come in and submit the name of your organization and your consortia. So as we display these stories on our state website and again the national site, the name of your individual organization will appear as well as your regional consortia. So, you know, we want to make sure that the individuals are represented, but also that it's always tied back to the regional work that you're doing. And then you have a student name. Here we can use the name. You have permission for the story. And then we've, right here, which I really like this area, is the program area. And this, to me, shows the many different faces of adult education other than just literacy. So if it pertains to apprenticeship, you would check that box. Maybe it's an adult with a disability, career technical education. So these are all the categories. And if you have something that's other, you can certainly put it in there. And then a submitting of the story, any pictures, and you sort of go from there. So this is going to be a new feature that's going to flow onto the campaign website. Now here's the employer success stories, and this is so important because we don't capture the support of business and industry, and we do a lot of work with them. So in this particular one, we'll have the name of the company and the success story, and then we have here something called engagement type. So did they do an apprenticeship with us? Maybe they provided a company tour or hired one of our students or did an internship or multiple ones. So same kind of format, but it allows us to capture the stories from business and industry. This is also in the make. And then I'll give you a quick preview of the e-magazine, and this is the first one, the legislative report. And in e-magazine, you just click online, which is really fun, and it takes you through different sections. You can see in this section, we have different chapters here on giving an overview, how we do data collection, our snapshots, and then here are the different areas that you just saw in the student success story: adult basic and secondary, English as a second language, career technical education, etc. So just show you kind of the inside of this. You can see it's very colorful. There's videos in here, so we can embed a video. This particular one came from the Fresno region. It's a great story about adult education. And by the way, as this gets published, you may say, well, why am I not in there? We're doing some great work. Don't worry, you will be. This is the first round, and again, these are the folks that stepped up and had this type of storytelling information on file or actually had good data behind it. So we selected some from each category and tried to do a balance in this first round. The goal in the next round is that every region will have a section. And that's fantastic because we can then take that section out and you can use it on your websites or for e-marketing. So that's why those regional profiles are really, really important. Just clicking through here, you see we have different charts and graphs and also infographics as well. So all of those hopefully will get you super excited about, really wanting to participate in the campaign. And I'm going to toggle back now into the PowerPoint. And we'll get back into that and then finish up here. So quickly going through that, we have the website tour, right? We've done that, and you can see kind of the work in process. We'll be working carefully with the Advocacy Committee on all messaging. I've shared with you the first of 2 e-magazines. That one will be published soon. The new enhancements to Practices with Promise to be able to upload student success stories and employer engagement stories as well. The video, which is going to share our message about the dual delivery system. I tell you, I hear that message so much from the Advocacy Committee, which is why we pulled that group together to have a great representation, a balanced representation between, adult schools and community colleges. And then Twitter, the Twitter account, we didn't talk about that. So Marianne Conlon's going to be leading the efforts here. And so AEBG, the campaign, will have a Twitter account where we will follow these key stakeholders and follow local, state, and national media, because those are 2 kind of key influencers, if you will, about getting our story out there. So here we'll do posts where we share data, and we can pull that data from the e-magazine, the first one, and also also those regional profiles that we're developing for you. We can also highlight the consortium members. So if you've got a really great program, we're going to be highlighting you on Twitter and on the website as well. We'll do e-magazine shares, and then we'll join adult ed conversations. So you can really see how we're moving into the new age of storytelling with this digital media, and it's really going to help elevate our role in the community as well as the relevancy of adult education. Now, one thing I'm really excited about, and hats off to COABE and Sharon Bonney there, who's the executive director, they have a subscription to a tool that allows you to kind of track your outreach efforts with key stakeholders. And it's really for the federal level. And I asked her the other day, I said, does it do states as well? She says, you know what, it does. And we can set up a campaign for each state so that, we're not duplicating efforts. So if you go and visit with someone, you'll be able to put that visit in this kind of state tracking tool. And what's so great is that each of those visits with key stakeholders gives us more information, doesn't it, about what their hot buttons are, and also in this tool, which I absolutely love, it allows you to look at voting records and what are their hot buttons so that we can really tailor the messages. So this is super exciting because she's going to allow us to use this tool being part of the national campaign. So we'll do some training on that, and again, we're organizing our outreach efforts collectively through that advocacy committee that is a balance between all the different types of associations in California. So we were really just pleased with that. So I will take a quick break, and Marianne, do we have any questions at this point before I conclude with what your role is, your voice, and your story in all of this? Marianne, anything? And Neil, do you have any input to date on anything that we've shown or anything you want to add?
Yeah, we've been just chatting in the chat box there about, OTAN has adult ed success stories that they've accumulated over the years. These are kind of testimonials as well as programs. And then we also at AEBG have been tracking practices with promise. So I think there's a real good opportunity there to mine that type of marketing data and those testimonials and videos. So I think we have a wealth of information that's out there. We just haven't coordinated it into a kind of a campaign like you're talking about.
That's outstanding. So we definitely will be chatting with our partners over at OTAN and just any others, too, that have success stories, innovations. And we're going to really, how to say this, we're going to take a very critical look at these stories because when you see that video that I'm recommending, you're going to see there's an arc to storytelling and also an art in storytelling. And so some of those stories may need to be retooled. Don't take that personal. We're just trying to really bring our A game in this and make sure that everything on this website creates a wow factor for people. And the story doesn't have to be, one that, oh gosh, your student now is the president of some company. That's not what we're talking about. It's really about having the right elements to it. So we're going to do some training around that. And then Michelle has really taken the lead on looking at those stories critically from her reporter eye. She used to be a reporter, and saying, could this be newsworthy? Is there a way we can shape it a little bit better? So we'll help you with that as we move forward. So Marianne, any questions before I go into this last section here?
I think we're getting them all answered as they're asked in the chat group, so that's good.
Okay, fantastic. Excellent. Well, I'll keep moving forward in here. So this last section is about your role, and it really is about your voice and your story. How are we going to get you all involved in these regional profiles? There's Michelle Jimenez, our Senior Marcom Director, and her email address. She's been, as I said, she's completed about half of the interviews now in developing an inventory of what you all are currently doing from an advocacy perspective and an outreach perspective. This is going to give us great information because it'll give us a lead or 2 leads or 3 leads to work with from each consortia, and that'll become kind of our core sounding board and group as we get get together and kind of coordinate our efforts, if you will. It will also allow us to cross-promote whatever you're doing from your regional level and just have a better coordinating effort. So there's two options. If you are in the 50% or not sure that you have completed, your consortia has completed an interview, we set up a little Google Doc link. So when you get the PowerPoint, you can click on that as an option to complete the outreach inventory. And we're asking that you have that done by the end of July. Or you can just contact Michelle at that email address and schedule a quick 10-minute interview. It's very short, and you'll be able to help us out there in getting a baseline of what you're doing between advocacy and outreach. And there's Mary Ann, our Senior Brand Director, and she's really leading up the regional consortia profile. And Mary Ann has been instrumental, highly instrumental, in the building a story at the national level. She has I'm in awe of her talents just in terms of being able to analyze data and merge that with qualitative stories into just amazing message points. So she's going to be heading that regional consortia profile, and we'll be contacting you to schedule a consultation. Right now we're just working with Neil on getting kind of a framework on the different sections, and then we're going to go ahead and start writing those now because the data is not coming in until the end of, I think, August, September timeframe is when we're going to be getting that data to plug it into each of your regional consortia profiles, and the goal here is to be ready to launch in October, having a concerted push with our outreach efforts. So Mary Ann will be coordinating that. And then anytime between now and, of course, the time we hold any webinars about storytelling, if you need help with story development or want to showcase an innovative program, Michelle Jimenez is your contact for that as well. Okay, so what are our next steps? Because we've said a lot here today, so let me just kind of take a breath and summarize, and then I'll kick it back to Neil for any closing comments. Just so you know, every week, Full Capacity Marketing will be putting in a special column in the AEBG e-newsletter. We also have a new look and feel for that newsletter that's, I think we're previewing with Christy's help and some of the creative directors this week. So we'll have a standing column in there around the campaign, and of course you can always contact the support line or me directly if you have any questions. That'll keep you updated. Then we're going to be working with the Advocacy Committee to develop that brand narrative and messages in the month of July. We'll also be co-developing stories and innovations with all of you, so as well as the regional profiles. So as those tools get launched and we say, okay, we're ready for you to upload stories, you'll hear about it through the newsletters, and then you have your contacts now between Mary Ann and Michelle, who will be reaching out to each of you in terms of the consortia to get those uploaded and finalized. We'll coordinate with our identified outreach and advocacy leads for each of the consortia from our inventory, plus the advocacy committee for our rollout. So as we move through this, you guys will become part of this team, and that will all happen July through September. And then in that time frame, we're going to be finishing the website and the campaign toolkit and things on your wish list in August, so that everything that you've put in the chat pod today and through those poll questions, we'll take it back, we'll take a look at it and develop those tools so that you have them. And of course, coordinate webinars with our partner SCOE on our SCOE team for any webinars maybe in the August, September, and even early October timeframe for our push and launch in October. So a lot to do, obviously, but hopefully you see the depth and breadth of the campaign and what we are doing here. The other thing, really quickly, in the meantime, we would highly encourage you to tap into COABE's national campaign and take a look at some of the toolkits that we've developed from the national perspective if you want to start using things right away and get grounded in this material. Also, COABE has a learning forum, and you see the address there, and there is where we post discussion threads and posts, and we do peer-to-peer learning from all across the country. So each state is sort of approaching this differently. California, I say, is going for the gold model. You guys are going to do a great job with this, and I know it will be highly successful. So just know that we're available to answer your questions, and so is the COABE Learning Forum as well at the national level. This is a great form that SCOE has put together for us to contact us for support, and this allows us to expedite who the contact should go to for the inquiry and make sure that you get your questions answered. So those are the systems that we have set up in place. Hopefully you're super excited about it. We certainly are. Just knowing the consortia and the work that you've done, you should be very proud of it, and it's our opportunity now to proactively talk about it. So with that, Neil, I'll turn it over to you for a close.
Okay. Geez, thanks. This has been great. I know that all the comments on the chat have been very positive. A lot of people are interested. A lot of people are offering additional resources. All very positive. It's kind of interesting because if you go back to the planning phase of this AB 86, and that's 3-4 years ago, that was when we were planning. We didn't have the $500 million yet, and we had teachers and faculty and libraries and CBOs, and God only knows how many other partners and individuals that are interested in adult ed. And we had a lot of synergy and collaboration. Then when the money came, things kind of changed a little bit because money causes, presidents and superintendents and vice presidents and, administrators to get involved. And so now we're kind of coming back to our grassroots of advocacy, which adult education really has been doing, for the last 170 years since it started in the 1800s in San Francisco. And so, we kind of lost a little bit of that because we were so busy, with all the $500 million rolling out. But we've approached, this will be kind of the first time that K-12 adult CCAE is working with kind of the community college counterpart on the non-credit side with ACE, and their advocates, that work with the legislature. So it's a real tremendous opportunity. And it's something that we haven't done before. So I'm really excited about seeing, a concerted effort. It's not just an adult school, and here are our issues. It's not a non-credit college issue, and here's what we're working on. It's adult education, and here's what we're advocating for and what we're working on. So this is fantastic. I think it's unprecedented. We really haven't had that type of cooperation and collaboration. So we're looking forward to that. I know at the local level you've kind of gone through that forming, storming, and norming with your governance structure, and hopefully you have a little better relationship with your partners, and you're working a little better together on how you inform your stakeholders. And this kind of just gives you those additional tools and information, materials that you need so when you go and talk to those stakeholders, or you're talking to your teachers and faculty, just trying to tell them what adult ed block grant is all about and adult education in California, what we're doing. So this is a real good start. Selena, anything to add on that?
No, just again, thank you all, and thank you to all the other technical assistance partners, SCOE, CASAS, OTAN, all of the folks there. We're just very excited to be a part of the team and do whatever we can to advance California's adult education. So I know we're all in it together, and we'll do a fantastic job. So thank you.
Right. Last plug. So we do want to get the word out to all the members, all the consortia, that professional development and technical assistance is available. All you have to do is contact us through the website. You go to the support button, and you click on that, and you put in a request for whether it's PD or technical assistance, and we'll take care of that. So that's another unprecedented thing, that we have this large technical assistance and professional development opportunity. And so we wish and hope that everybody will take advantage of that. So with that, I'll let Selena congratulate and thank all her team, and we'll wrap up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you to all of the folks at Full Capacity Marketing, and also Dr. Bosworth at Business U. I know we'll be seeing all of you again and highlighting your talents in future webinars. So always a pleasure to work with you. And Veronica, I think that's it. I'll give it to you to close it out.
And I think Veronica is going to remind everybody about CASA's webinar next Wednesday, I think it's the 19th, July 19th, which is a Wednesday, and that's going to be on data submission into TE for your August 1st data submission, your final 16-17 data submission. So if you have a data person or somebody that deals with your AEBG data and you're either need a quick tutorial or having problem with the import-export or not understanding how to use TE, I would suggest highly that you get on that webinar next Wednesday.
And I have just provided the link to the registration site. It is now open, so please feel free to register at any time. All right, thank you,
All right.
everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks for